Alrighty, hello everyone. Let me just scooch in here. Alright, so let's get to my YouTube channel so I can see what you guys are saying. Channel. Here we go. Alright. Mark says, Mom's making meatloaf for supper. Awesome. Hello everyone. Hello. Top Impressive Line, TNS Rocks, Moonzer, Mark, K4RNA, King of Battleships, Diamond. Let's see here. Who else is here? I know that Steve is here, but I think that's everybody for now. Let me turn down the music. There we go. Yeah, hello. Hey, Jeffrey. Yeah, a few minutes ago I gave you guys the ability to vote for the tea that I was going to have today, but I don't think anybody was actually looking at the chat at that time. Oh, you can't see me. Oh, okay. I think I know what's wrong then. Yeah, okay. How do I fix this? I don't... Okay, hold on. I know what's wrong, and the problem is that sometimes if I bump the cord that is attached to the camera will stop live streaming to the computer. So I think I'm pretty sure that's what happened. And part of me is pretty sure that I would have to redo the live stream for me to fix the problem. So let me see what I can do. Just a moment. I'll leave this here. Alright, hold on. And of course, the camera's running out of battery now. Alright, hold on, everyone. Think. Yeah, okay. Cool. I was able to fix it before I had to stop the live stream. Okay. Alright. Thanks for letting me know, you guys. There we go. I'm watching it on my camera, yeah. Okay. Alright, so let's get this tea started. Oh, right, I gotta empty out half of this. So, how has everyone been doing today? I know it's been a while since I've done a tea time stream or anything whatsoever. I'm going through one of those moments where I keep doubting what kinds of stuff I should be putting up on my channel, because, you know, I want to make stuff that people want to watch, you know, but sometimes I just start doubting myself. I start working on a project, and then halfway through the project I'm like, no one's gonna watch this video, you know, and then I quit and then I do something else. And it's been like that for the past 2 weeks. I've been just going back and forth, working on different projects and stuff, and like right now I'm working on a Queen Mary video, but I'm kind of like, okay, people on my channel love the Queen Mary, but when I post too many Queen Mary videos in a row, people stop watching them. So I'm kind of like, should I like do something else first? That usually helps. Sometimes if I do cover a different subject first. And a lot of people are like, Alex, you know, make a video on the Majestic, make a video on the, you know. I'm not prepared to make those videos yet. You know, like, I have not been an ocean liner fan my whole life. I only got into ocean liners, and not even into ocean. I wouldn't even call myself an ocean liner fan. I'm first and foremost a Queen Mary fan. But ocean liners in general, I'm not that interested. There are some ocean liners that are interesting that I have tried to cover on the channel. And I think a few of them have got, some pretty good attention. I did one on the Lancastria. So that one did really well. But yeah, it's tough because I get a lot of suggestions from people on making certain content on certain ships, but I don't want to be locked into just ships because I'm not really that big of an ocean liner fan. I'm really just a Queen Mary fan. I like history in general. So I want to cover more history in general. But it is tough because I think most of my viewers are ocean liner fans, which I never intended for it to be that way. It's just that's what people ended up watching on the channel. So it is kind of tough. It's tough to figure it out. But Linda says, "Hello, Alex. Good to see you on this rainy Saturday." It's rainy for me too. It's really windy, but it's nice. I like this weather, honestly. Let's see. Top Impressive Line says, "Hey Alex, when the Keewatin opens in Kingston, do you think you'll send someone over to film the ship?" No, because I already had sent that person. That person's my friend Chris. He was on his way to Canada anyway at the time, and he was going to try to film Keewatin for me. But it was not available. It was not open at the time. So he missed his opportunity. He couldn't get there, So it was just one of those situations where it was like, there was no way I was going to be able to get that footage. And I can't just tell him to go back, all the way over there. Because he lives in Southern California. So, no matter, where it's docked, it's going to be quite a distance from where he is. And it's not worth it. I'd probably get maybe 100 views on that video, honestly. So I don't think it's worth it. Yeah. King of Battleship says, "You could do a video on the history of Notre Dame." Oh, absolutely. But that's what I'm saving the trip to Europe for, is so I can film Notre Dame. Because my problem is when I cover subjects that I have not filmed myself, I end up having to borrow film from people. And you won't even believe how many people are greedy. They are like, "Well, you're going to give me money for it?" And I'm like, "I can't give you money for it. I don't have the money to give you." And then there's people who say, they're like, "Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, use my footage." And then later on, they send me like a copyright thing because they're like, "Oh, well, now I want some of the ad revenue you earned." And it's like, that ad revenue goes towards my rent. Like, I can't afford to give you anything. So it's one of those things where it's like, I make agreements with people, and then sometimes, not all the time, sometimes those people go back on their agreements. I've had to cancel videos because I've made agreements with people where they would let me use their footage, and then they've gone back on it, and then I can't use any footage at all. So it's really ridiculous. Like, one of my most recent ones was, well, I guess it's not the same situation, but it was my video of the, what do you call it? What was that? What was the video called? It was the avalanche train disaster in Washington, but I can't for the life of me remember the name of the town that it happened at. It starts with a W. Pretty sure. Anyway, point is, I made that video. People liked it. I ran into some copyright issues, had to take it down. Now I can't put it back up because the main images I was using for that video are now barred. I can't use them anymore. So I was threatened with like a copyright lawsuit. So I was like, okay, well, I got to take this video down now. So it is very tough. I want to film this stuff myself. That's why people are like, "Alex, are you ever going to the UK?" I'm like, yes, believe me, that is my thing, because I need to get footage in order to expand more stuff for the channel without having to run into copyright issues. Problem is, I need to come up with content now that will help me to save up money for that trip. And that's the problem I'm running into, is right now, the content I'm making, I don't think is doing its best. And so I'm kind of like, I'm at that point where I'm just like, I don't know what it is that will be successful on the channel, because what I'm doing isn't working right now. So we'll see. Wellington Avalanche, that's it. Thank you. Yeah, Wellington Avalanche. What was I gonna do? Oh yeah, I was preheating this. Okay. Thank you, Nicholas. Okay, dump all this out. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to get like a copyright claim on your channel for, you know, using something, you know, like sometimes I've had to use images that are not mine, and, you know, I had to use it without someone's permission, because sometimes, like, let me tell you, people, for every image you see on my channel, it belongs to somebody, either me or somebody else, but somebody wants a piece of that pie. They want their name on it, maybe they want some kind of recognition, they want me to promote them, maybe they want me to pay them. But either way, people always want something. And so, you know, I try to do what I can. I send them an email and I go, hey, can I use this photo? Or hey, can I use this footage? And then in the past, I've learned that they just don't get back to me until, like, you know, 6 months later, when the project is already, like, done and gone, you know. So I've learned to just use the stuff first and ask questions later, you know. It's like, because I'll never get the projects done that way. You know, thankfully I've had some long-term agreements with some people, so sometimes you guys have seen drone footage on my channel of the Queen Mary, so you'll see drone footage of the drone flying around the Queen Mary or up to the Queen Mary. Those are from 3 different channels that I had long-term agreements with. They were like, yeah, you can keep using my footage as long as you credit me, and I'm like, okay, cool, so I do that. I credit them every time I use the footage. So thankfully I've had good agreements like that. It's not everybody is bad or greedy or whatever, but there are just times. Let me just say. Okay, so I forgot to put the tea in here. Alright. It is really windy outside. There we go. Alright, so 4 minutes from now. Hello, Bulgarian coastline. Plumbit says, it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. Sometimes that is very true. And in the case of using footage on the channel for stuff, it's very, very true. Especially because, like I said, you email these people to ask permission, and then they don't get back to you for like 6 months. And then by that time, it's too late, you know. There's nothing more you can do. So, yeah. Wow, it is really windy outside. I have my sliding glass door open just a tiny crack because it gets warm in here with all the lights and everything on for the live stream. So I leave the door open just a crack to let some air in, and boy, it is just it's like it's high pressure, just right into the room. Jeffrey says, when were you planning on having merch for sale? Originally, the plan was to have it by the end of January, this past January, and I was working on it. I was putting it all together, and it kept breaking apart. It was not doing what I wanted it to do. Because what I'm doing is lino printing. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. You take linoleum, you carve images into it, and you use that to print images onto things. And so I was doing lino cuts because I've got kind of an artistic, what do they say, a penchant for art, So I was kind of doing that, and it wasn't printing properly. Sometimes parts of the image just would not print onto the paper. So I've had to buy a different, what do you call it? It's not linoleum. Now I'm working with rubber. But I have yet to start on the rubber because of the fact that I did all this work on linoleum only for me to find out it doesn't work. And now I have to start on a different medium with the exact same images. So I'm just like, tired of it. But plus, the other thing, too, is that I'm trying to get this channel back on its feet. Right now, it's on very shaky ground. So I'm trying to get the channel back on its feet. That's been my number one focus besides, that's why I haven't been working on merchandise, is because I'm trying to get this channel back on its feet. So, one more minute on the tea. Chris says, hey Alex, last week on Wednesday I turned 37. I really don't like getting older. Oh, yeah. I was looking in the mirror yesterday, and I was surprised to see how many gray hairs I have on my head now. And I was just like, oh man, it's happening fast now. I'm not that bothered by age, to be honest. Like my sister, for instance, oh man, every day she thinks about it and she dreads getting older. I'm not like that. I kind of just accept it, But every once in a while, when I am reminded how much older I am than I used to be, I'm just like, ugh. I feel like the earlier part of my life, I just wasted on things that I didn't enjoy or didn't want to do. Now I'm enjoying my life, but it almost feels like, at times, it just feels like it's too late, but for certain things. What is with these numbers? People are saying 99, 40, 51. What's going on? Oh, okay, I see. Hold on. Oh, it's ages. Okay. Five Caps Film says, when you look at the backside of Titanic's Grand Staircase, it kind of looks like Lusitania's first-class dining saloon. I can kind of see that, yeah. Alright, just give that a quick stir. There we go. Time to reheat this teacup a little bit. Moonzer says, be right back getting more tea. K4RNA says, I know the feeling about wasting time in life, but hey, you can only move forward, no regrets. Yeah, I move forward, but I still have regrets. I move forward, though. So, I don't know if you guys remember last time I was doing this live stream, I sit on like a stool, like the kind of stool you might sit on to put your shoes on, if you have like a foyer in your house or something. and it's the only way I can get myself in the camera frame along with this and the background all in the same level. But nevertheless, it's a very uncomfortable stool to sit on. It's got no padding like whatsoever. And everybody was like, "Alex, just get some like a seat cushion, thing." So I bought this seat cushion foam, and I'm using it right now. I'm sitting on it, but it's not helping. Just ultimately, the stool is just a small surface area. So, let's see. Alright. So, alright, the teacup is hot enough. So today we have Yorkshire Grey. Not Yorkshire Grey. Yorkshire Gold. What in the world, Yorkshire Grey? Yorkshire Gold tea. It's very dark. I try not to overbrew the tea because Yorkshire is very, just bitter, just in general. So when you overbrew it, it can be a bit too bitter. But I think I accidentally overbrewed it or oversteeped it by a minute today. So it's going to be pretty bitter. An Age Forgotten says, "Good evening, I'm having some tea and sandwiches to go with it." Oh, nice. I miss when I used to make tea sandwiches. I used to do like a cucumber sandwich. The recipe is still in the description of the live streams, by the way. But I just never have the time. But whenever I do make the tea sandwiches, it's just really nice. It's nice to have that. Wow, the wind is just howling. Can you guys hear that? Of course, now it stops. King of Battleships says, "Did Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth earn back their building costs?" To my knowledge, yes, they did. Oh, some of you can hear it. Yeah, it's like crazy. I'm like, geez. It's a bit scary when we have high winds because where I live, we have these really tall trees. Like, I live like surrounded by forests. So we have these really tall trees that are like 80, 90 feet tall. And I'm always worried that they're just going to fall over because they do. Like, when I walk, like, we have a hiking trail near my apartment complex, which is really lucky. I can go walking and hiking whenever I want, but sometimes you walk down the trail and there's like trees freshly felled, well, I suppose felled is when you chop them down, but they have freshly fallen from high winds and stuff, so I'm always worried that one of them is going to land on me or my apartment. Oh, and Age Forgotten says, "Still Candace, I renamed it for the future filming I'll be doing. Not much this year, but enough for content to support the channel's name." Ah, I see, okay. Alright. I had overfilled the cup because I was putting a lot of milk in there, but the milk helps to subdue the bitterness of the tea. Actually, that's not bad. It's, I don't think I oversteeped it too much. Diamond says, "Do you know what they still use the first engine room on the Queen Mary for to use it for storage now?" Well, the forward engine room on the Queen Mary is part of the convention space. So they have like an exhibit hall convention space kind of thing. And they don't use that because it's in disrepair. So it's just not pleasant looking. It's not like it's dangerous to walk inside, but it's just in a state of disrepair. So they don't really use it. And so, yeah, but there is no more forward engine room. Like, they've combined Boiler Room 5, the after turbo generator room, and the forward engine room to create a large exhibit space in the 1970s. So there's no more bulkheads separating them. Chris says, "Wow, Alex, you almost overfilled your cup." I know, because I there wasn't enough milk in there, and I'm like, I need more milk, or else this is going to taste very bitter. So, King of Battleships says, "So did all the cabins on Queen Mary's, on Queen get a letter designation depending on which deck they were on, like A120/A124?" Yes. So all the cabins, they did get a letter designation that corresponded with the letter of the deck that they were on. So if you had an M deck cabin, you had an M before the number of your cabin. Yeah. All right. So it's funny because there's been a commentator on one of my videos recently that he's been pretty at it. Now, Steve, if you're watching, which I'm sure you are because you just left a comment, are you able to tell us any, in a few words, obviously, because you can only type so much into the chat, but are you able to tell us one or two instances when you worked at Queen Mary where money was not spent properly on the ship? Because there is a person who's been commenting on one of my videos who says he was a former employee, and he says, that the only problem with the Queen Mary is that they've just never had enough money to repair the ship. And I'm like, that's not the entire case. I mean, yeah, the ship wasn't super profitable in the past, but that was not quite the case. Whenever they did have money, sometimes it was just not spent properly. So, yeah, it's one of those things where I'm just like trying to tell this to this guy, and this guy is not getting it. He's just like, no, they just, it's the whole he's very sympathetic towards his former management. I don't know what that management was, because he didn't tell me when he worked there. But I was just kind of like, I know that there was management in the past that were sympathetic to the ship. They wanted to help the ship. But there was also management in the past that really took advantage of the ship and really didn't bother to properly run it. They did what they thought would be profitable and kept making mistake after mistake and not trying something new. But until I wait for you to respond, I'll give an example of something that, well, not a specific example, but what I mean is, I had a mentor once that used to tell me, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And that has stuck with me my whole life, because a lot of people around me, I see them, when they make mistakes, they keep making the same mistake over and over again, hoping to get a different outcome. And I've seen that on the Queen Mary. I've seen them keep doing the same things over and over again, hoping that maybe this time that specific idea will make money. And then it doesn't. And then it just goes to waste. It's like they're just a repeating record. And so I've done everything that... I have a pocket there. I had no idea. I've done everything that I can as just a random YouTuber to try to give, the city and management different ideas to help them break away from, the cycle of the past. And I've seen the current management implement some of my ideas and stuff, and then I've also seen them repeat old ideas. And so I'm kind of like, well, let's see where that goes, but, it's the same idea, So there's things like that I'm keeping an eye on. And like I said, that this management is a lot better than previous managements, at least for the last 30 years. At least. Because this current management, they really do care about the ship, and they're doing their best. And they're listening to people. They've listened to me. But I do worry that when the creativity runs out, they'll just look for something that they used to do and try that again. I don't believe in doing that. That's not who I am. I would not do things that way. Like I said, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. You try something new to get a different outcome. And that's what I'm worried will happen to the Queen Mary if they don't change the way that they do things or change the mindset of what the ship is and how to run it. So a lot of times, I guess people are probably wondering, well, what do you mean? A lot of times the ship is operated like it's some kind of, airport hotel. The kind of hotel you stay at because you have an early flight in the morning. And they do that with the ship exactly that way because of Carnival. They have the Carnival cruise terminal, which is fine. I get it. People are going on their Carnival cruises, and some of them want to stay nearby. And what better place to stay at than Queen Mary for one night? Problem is, that's one night, and those people, if they don't have a good experience on the ship, they're not going to be likely to return. So that's why I've been very, very, very outspoken and cautious about, trying to help them understand that they can't just rely on those people who stay overnight for the Cunard cruises. Because, or not Cunard, but Carnival. Because the ship needs to be able to draw in locals. It needs to be able to give them something that they can't get anywhere else. And the ship has such a potential for that. Problem is that people get there, and the number one complaint you see from people is they get there, they pay all this money. They pay the exorbitant parking fees, the exorbitant, entry fee into the ship. Then they have to pay for tours on top of that. And then what are they left with? They've got a couple of restaurants which don't really meet, their desire for food. There's a lot of I don't know how to say it, just classic diner food on the ship. But there should be more. There should be a restaurant, for instance, that serves, a specific region of food. Something that is other than just classic American diner food, even if it's upscaled. I mean, granted, I went to the Queen Mary. I had an amazing chicken and waffles. It was my first time having chicken and waffles. Loved it. They did so well. But that's just kind of the thing is, it was, chicken and waffles is like a classic diner food. Maybe not like Denny's diner, but it is a classic diner food, and yet it was just upscaled slightly. So it's like you should offer a bit more variety than just that, because you got all these people that are coming from LA, Los Angeles, the place that is full of various types of cuisine. And if they don't want to have upscaled diner food, then they're going to leave and spend their money elsewhere. And that's the problem I see with the ship. I see too many reasons to leave the ship, not enough reasons to stay. And so that's kind of one of the things that I'm concerned about. So I'll get back to some of Steve's comments. I know I asked him a specific question, so I know he'll get back to it. But yeah, that's one of the things that I always find a problem with the Queen Mary is that there's not enough to do. And there's not enough to see. When you spend admission on the ship, and the only Art Deco spaces you really get to see is like the main hall, maybe the observation bar when it's open. But some people go there in the morning. Observation bar doesn't open till like 11 or noon or something like that. And then those people don't even stay long enough. There's so many people that go to the Queen Mary, and then after 2 hours, they're like, okay, there's nothing to do. Bye. And they leave. And if they had just stayed a little bit longer, they could have seen the observation bar, But other than that, there aren't very many Art Deco spaces open to people who visit the ship. You go there, you might see, you see main hall, you might see the observation bar, and through a glass window, you can see the pool room. But other than that, there really isn't anywhere you can go unless the doors to a specific room are unlocked. Sometimes the doors to the first-class main restaurant, which I think today is called the Grand Salon, sometimes those are left unlocked and you can open the door and you can walk right on in. But more often than not, they're just locked. You can't go in anywhere. And that's the problem I see with the ship. There should at least be more places on Promenade deck, because Promenade deck is where everybody goes, unless you're checking in for your hotel room. But Promenade deck is meant to be the main center of activity on the ship. That's how they design the hotel, but that's not how they run the hotel. And so I feel that there should be more Art Deco spaces on Promenade deck that are open to people to explore, sit down, enjoy. So that way there is something for them to do, something for them to see. Give them a reason to stop and take a picture, But there, aside from the observation bar, there really isn't. And I don't see too many people taking selfies in main hall. Main hall is kind of like, to the most people that walk aboard the ship, just a shopping area. They don't really see it as like a place to take too many pictures. They do, but not much. Observation bar, you're more likely to see people taking selfies and enjoying the environment, But there should be more places. They should open up the main lounge to daily activities, daily entertainment, and, allow people to just walk right on in. There can be, volunteer docents, or they could hire more security to keep an eye on the place. But, nevertheless, there should be stuff happening on stage all the time, and if there isn't stuff happening on stage, there should be music piped into the room. Music from main hall, perhaps, that is piped into the room for people to enjoy. So it's things like that where I'm just kind of like, they don't do it. And it's because their mindset is, well, we can make a lot of money off of banquets. It's like, yes, but you can make even more money by booking the place every day, with entertainment. Give people a reason to come aboard the ship. You can make more money from the people boarding the ship, paying for the parking, and then paying for the stage show that's happening in the main lounge, or maybe afternoon tea. Have them serve afternoon tea in the main lounge. Every moment of the day can be used to earn profit. But I've been on the Queen Mary before. I've seen how the main lounge can go a whole day without anything in it being used at all. It'll just go the whole day. But if you book it every single day with things, you can earn money every day from it. That's why I'm kind of like, I don't like this idea of using Promenade deck for banqueting or meetings, because you could use those spaces for profitable things on a daily basis, as opposed to once a week or once every couple of days. So yeah, that's my gripe with it. Now let's get back to the question I asked Steve. I asked Steve if he had any, if he had seen or experienced any mismanagement or misspending of money while working for the Queen Mary. Um, so he says, yes, some took advantage, some tried to help. The problem is that in 1980, or since 1980, the ship has been handled by for-profit entities. Right now, the city needs really good working relationships with good, dependable nonprofit, or with a good, dependable nonprofit arm that can oversee restoration of the ship right now. There isn't any. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, actually. The ship should be handled by dependable non-profit entities. Because the thing about non-profits is that you're less likely to run into an issue where they have ulterior motives, right? If the ship is run by a for-profit entity, their whole thing is that they want to make a profit, and in the past what we've seen is that they'll make a profit even at the detriment to the ship, meaning that they will neglect the ship's maintenance to save on the maintenance budget in order to make money off of the ship. So that's one of the things that has happened to the Queen Mary because she's been ran by for-profit entities. And so yeah, if you had, one or two or even three non-profits who decided the operation and the fate of the ship, made those business decisions, then, you would have a more likely better outcome. Things wouldn't be done just for the sake of the bottom line. It would be done for the health and well-being of the ship itself. So yeah, I do agree with that. Yeah, definitely. Stefan Refault says, get a celebrity restaurant. If it was like what we call it's been a couple of years, but when I was in culinary school, we talked about how fine dining is quickly being replaced with fine casual. Fine casual because I don't know if you guys remember, but there used to be restaurants that you would go to get dressed up in your nicest clothes, get really great service, and it was very slow, very just fine dining. I don't know how else to describe it, but today you see a lot less of those places. Now, the fine dining restaurants that people refer to, you can just walk in wearing jeans and a shirt and, order something that you don't get the full service. You don't get to dine on fine china or anything like that. You just get regular plates and stuff like that. And it's fine dining, but it's very casual. And that's because that's where the trend is going. Fewer and fewer people want a ultra refined experience. I'm not saying that we should, remove all the refinery from the Queen Mary, but I do think that if you were to introduce a restaurant that is a celebrity restaurant, it might really help to choose a specific type of eatery that is what we call fine casual, because you guys have seen the types of people that visit the Queen Mary, right? We're talking like people in like tank tops and jeans and sometimes sandals. I would like to see a day where the people who come to the Queen Mary are dressed in their best. They want to look nice, But as many people have pointed out in my videos, that they see people in my videos are like, oh my gosh, that person is wearing all pink spandex, and I'm like, yeah, I know, right? Like, I don't. Why would you come to the Queen Mary dressed in all pink spandex? But anyway, it's things like that. I would like to see that happen, but it seems that society in general is steering away from dressing in what's nice versus dressing in what's comfortable. So that seems to be the trend. So I'd like the Queen Mary to stay ahead of the trend in order to stay what do you call relevant, to stay relevant. There is a certain point where you want the ship to be a fine experience, but you also don't want to turn it into a place that is only catering to the super wealthy, and even then the super wealthy aren't going because there's much better places to go than the Queen Mary. So that's kind of my concern with that. King of Battleships says they should keep the second class main lounge open to walk through. Oh, right, the one on M deck. Yeah, it's rooms like that where I have personally, of all the times that I've had people go to the Queen Mary to take photos or something for me or take video, or even when I went to the Queen Mary, I have never seen the M Deck Lounge, or the Britannia Salon as it's called today, used. I mean, I know it has been. I'm not saying it hasn't. It's just that it seems that more often than not, it is not being used. And, okay, fine, but I think what they should do with it is, if it's not being used, they should set up like temporary railing that they can put up, so that way you walk in one side of it, loop around, get a good view of it, and then walk out the other side. So that way people can walk in and see it, but not just roam around freely. So that would be something that I think would be beneficial to that area. Yeah, the kinks would have to be worked out, but nevertheless, it would be a good idea. 5 Caps Film says, what do you think of the inside of RMS Mauritania 2? From what little I've seen, because I've only seen a few pictures, but from what little I've seen, it looks nice. It looks like a miniature Queen Elizabeth. So, yeah, it looks pretty nice. Steve says, I miss the days of enforced dress codes for Sunday brunch. Let's see how Sir Winston's will continue in a business attire code. Oh, yeah, business attire. Business attire isn't too bad. At least with business attire, people look nice. They dress in dress shirts and, and have slacks and stuff like that, at least. But, I don't know. Like, yeah, every time I've gone to the Queen Mary, I've dressed nicely. I've tried to look nice because, I don't know, maybe it's an old-fashioned way of thinking, but when I go out to something like that, You know, it's an event. It's something you dress up for, you know. But it seems that more and more people just, like, you know, I've seen people come to the Queen Mary, you know, wearing pajamas. And I'm just like, but those are the kinds of people that wear pajamas everywhere. And I don't get it. I don't know, you know. I feel like there's a time and place for stuff like that, but then what do you say to those kinds of people, you know? What do you say? Do you try to convince them that they're wearing the wrong thing, and then how do you convince them? Top Impressive Line says, Alex, the past few weeks we've had some record high temperatures here in upstate New York. Temperatures in the high 50s and low 60s. We didn't even have much snow in the late 2023 and early this year. It's been kind of the same for us. We had one major snow event this year, or this past winter, I should say, because, you know, it counting last year in December through February. Yeah, our weather was pretty warm compared to what it usually is. And we only had one major snow event where the snow stuck. And the only reason why it stayed for like a couple of days is because the sun never came out until, like, you know, 5 days later. But other than that, like, we had pretty warm temperatures. Like, I do remember, like, you know, when the snow was still on the ground, but the sun wasn't out, we still had, like, it was still like 40 degrees outside, which is unusual for that time of year. But yeah, it is strange, because I remember the first few winters of living up here, it would snow several different times in the winter. But yeah, this past winter we had only one major snow event. The other day, though, we did have snowflakes fall, but they didn't stick to the ground. And then it was over as soon as it began. So Stefan says, Alex, you said it. Make it an event and have something tourist class available for the pajama crowd. Yeah, unfortunately. I don't know. You know, when I worked at Disneyland when I was a teenager, we still had a dress code back then. It was only a tiny remnant of what it used to be, but it was basically like you can't show skin. That was basically our dress code. Now today, they're so relaxed on it. I've seen people go there, you know, wearing those, what do you call them, like booty shorts and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my god. And girls wearing like the shortest tank tops that show like their whole stomach and everything. I'm like, how does Disney do this? Like, when I worked there, we had like basic dress codes. Like, you couldn't show skin. You know, if you had a lot of tattoos, you had to wear a shirt that would cover it. So I remember, like, there was a guy who had tattoos, like sleeve tattoos down his arms. And sometimes, you know, if it was just art or something like that, just like regular art, you know, you might turn the other way. It's not worth it to get security involved or whatever. But there were times where there were like guys that would have like naked women tattooed onto their arm. And for those people, we'd have to go up to them and be like, hey, you know, you should be wearing a long sleeve shirt or something to cover that. We have a dress code here and stuff like that. So I do remember having to confront people when I worked at Disneyland for the dress code. But today, like I said, they have virtually no dress code at all. I think the only thing is, like, you have to have closed-toed shoes. That's, like, the only thing that they still maintain. And it's just, I see the kinds of people that go to Disneyland, and I'm like, you know, they're just not dressed for a day in the park and around children and stuff. And I'm just like, what happened? You know, like, what happened to our society where people just, I don't know, just became grungy looking, and I don't know. I guess, in my opinion, it just reflects no standards. But I guess there would be people who would argue against that and say, no, I still have standards. They're just not the same as yours. But I try to think about things from maybe a perspective that isn't my own. But everything's things like that I don't understand, you know. And then the Disneyland cast members, we all had to be clean shaven and have our hair, you know, neat and tidy. Our uniforms, which we called costumes. So even if you were wearing a suit as part of your uniform, it was still called a costume. And so our costumes, they would have to be fitted nicely. So you used to have to go to the costuming department, and when they told you, okay, you're working here, then this is your costume for it, they would check you and make sure that your costume was fitted properly. And then they tell you, okay, these are your sizes, these are your, you know, this is what you need to look for every time you come here to get a fresh, clean costume. Now today I see the cast members there wearing all kinds of really baggy and oversized costumes, not properly fitted. They look kind of dumpy looking, you know, they're not clean shaven. They can, I mean, Disney says that their dress code now allows for facial hair as long as it's well kept, but I've seen plenty of cast members who don't have well kept facial hair. It looks very patchy and whatnot, but it's because now their dress code is like, oh, just let people be who they are kind of thing. And I'm like, that's great and all, but there's got to be like some kind of professional look, you know? Dino DeSantis says, does the Blue Ribbon still exist? It never existed in the first place. The Blue Ribbon was just a title. It was just something you say. So there was no official anything to the Blue Ribbon. Basically, if you broke the previous speed record, they would say that you held the Blue Ribbon. That's it. But it was just words. That's all. There was no, like, Blue Ribbon Hall of Fame or anything like that. Like, it was just words. It was just a title you kept. And people kept track of it, which is how people knew who was the Blue Ribbon holder. We still know who the last Blue Ribbon holder is, the SS United States. But the thing is there is no Blue Ribbon in reality. So you can't say it exists or it doesn't exist. I'm pretty sure if another ocean liner was built that could go faster than SS United States, and it went and did the transatlantic crossing and beat SS United States record, we could then say that ship holds the Blue Ribbon now. But there's nothing to officiate it. And there are people who would talk about the Hales Trophy. The Hales Trophy is not related to the Blue Ribbon. The Hales Trophy was created, it's kind of a long story, but basically it was created because someone wanted to have some kind of official way to mark the fastest ship. But the problem was not every ship runs the transatlantic route, and as well as the fact that nobody could agree on, I think, like what designates the Hales Trophy. So the Hales Trophy was created by somebody, and it was, given to, I think, the SS United States, and then it was later given, it was, not literally given, but I think metaphorically given to, I think, recently a ship, I don't know. But it's not related to the Hales Trophy, let me just tell you that. So if you guys see the Hales Trophy, And even though the Hales Trophy says Blue Riband on it, it's not related to the Blue Ribbon. So, yeah. Stefan says, I don't think they'll ever build another commercial passenger ship faster than the SS United States. Well, they have, actually. That's what I was actually just talking about, was that the most recent ship to have the title of the Hales Trophy is technically the fastest passenger ship in the world. And it crossed the Atlantic, I think, in like 2 or 3 days flat, something like that. And it was built by Richard Branson, I think. Is that his name? He's the guy who's the head of the Virgin Company. So he built that ship. It's a passenger ship. So it is the fastest passenger ship in the world. But it's not an ocean liner. And that's why people say it doesn't have the Blue Riband, because it's not an ocean liner. And if you want to have the Blue Riband, you have to build an ocean liner. So, yeah. But I do see a way for there to be ocean liners in the future that could be faster than the SS United States, maybe by just a little bit. But I can see that I can see a way for there to be a ship in the future, but I can't say with any certainty that they will build one. And that goes to one of my videos that I put out, I think like 2 months ago, about the future of ocean liners and how there could be more in the future. There could be up to, let me just say that again, up to 4 ocean liners in the next 10 years that are running around the world at the same time. And they would be serving a very niche audience, people who have the time and the money to travel and want to do it at leisure, but they want to do it faster than being on a cruise ship. Like they want to get from New York to Cherbourg or to Southampton. They'd have Cunard. Maybe if they want to get from San Francisco to Sydney, Australia, they might have a different ship that could do that kind of run, that kind of thing. And it would, it would only be for people who have the time and money for it. But there are people who have the time and money for it. We know there are, because the Queen Mary 2 gets booked out a whole year in advance of its transatlantic crossings. So we know that there's a long line of people waiting to board an ocean liner and use that instead of an airplane to get somewhere. So we know that it exists. We know that there is a little demand for it. The question is, will that demand increase as, airplane travel becomes more and more horrible? It's the only word I can think of. As it becomes more and more horrible. I think the Catlink 5 is the one that I was talking about. I think that's the one I was talking about, that it's the fastest passenger ship in the world. It's just not an ocean liner, so it couldn't claim the Blue Riband. Okay, maybe not. I don't know. Let me find it. It's going to drive me crazy now that I don't know. Okay. Fastest passenger ship in the world. It comes up as HSC Francisco, built by Incat in Hobart, Tasmania. It's a large catamaran, 325 feet long. It has a capacity for 1,025 passengers. Went into service in 2013. Yeah, so that's what comes up when I type fastest passenger ship in the world. And in fact, that's the very ship I remember seeing when I last learned about it, and that it claimed the Hales Trophy, but not the Blue Riband. Now, Steve says it's something... I think he says it was formerly the Catlink 5. Okay, so... yeah. But yeah, that ship has the Hales Trophy, but it does not have the Blue Riband. So that's one I was talking about. Oh, Glamorous Titanic asks if Queen Elizabeth, the ship, had a children's playroom for each of the classes just like the Queen Mary. I personally cannot say for any certainty that it did. I would guess that it did, because the fact that Queen Mary had one for every class, it makes sense. But I can't say with any certainty because I don't know. And Steve makes a good point. He was talking to somebody else about the speed record. So the speed record to claim the Blue Riband or to claim the Hales Trophy is not about the actual achievable speed of a ship. It's about who gets to the destination faster. So, you know, for instance, I'm sure there's been races where a car or something was faster than another, but that car experienced some kind of issues, right? Where it couldn't finish the race. Maybe it crashed, maybe it had engine trouble, something like that, right? But then another car that was technically slower than it would win the race. So it's the same thing for the Blue Riband. You don't get the Blue Riband because you have the fastest engines. You get the Blue Riband because you get to the destination faster. So, you know, that's the speed record. So I know a lot of people have been confused about that over time. They've asked me, you know, like, oh, well, this ship was faster, so how come, you know, it did, you know, whatever. But point is it's based on who gets to the destination the fastest. And the speed record is very specific for the Blue Riband. You must... There's a rock, Bishop's Rock. You have to pass Bishop's Rock just off the coast of Plymouth? Just off the coast of Plymouth, I think? England, basically. And then you have to go all the way to what used to be the light ship just off the coast of New York. Now they have a different designation, you know, for anybody who wants to take the transatlantic run. There's a certain place just off the coast of New York that you must reach within the last period of time that the SS United States took. So that's the speed record. And if you can get there faster than the SS United States did, that's the speed record. So, yeah. Evan says the wind. Yeah, I can hear the wind. Cryovenator, hello. Have one of my Scottish shortbreads. I love these things. I only eat them when I have, like, tea on a live stream. Chestnut Pie says, Alex, do you like coffee? I do. I grew up on coffee. Ironically, I was never a tea person. I was always a coffee person. But through my 20s, as I got older, coffee had a strange effect on me that I didn't like. It was starting to make me feel unhealthy. I don't know how to say it. Like, I would drink coffee, and as I go about my day, I would feel like I would get like a cold sweat. I would get like labored breathing. Like I'd feel very just I don't know, like unwell. It would make me feel very unwell throughout the day. I didn't like the way it made me feel. So I had to slowly stop drinking coffee. And at one point, I had stopped drinking coffee altogether because I just didn't like the way it makes me feel. And then when I decided to start doing live streams on this channel on a regular basis, I thought about what I could do, and then the idea came to me that I was collecting already the parts of this tea set. And I thought, well, what if I did an afternoon tea kind of thing? And so that's what got me into start drinking tea. Now, before that, I never drank tea. I didn't like tea. I thought I hated tea. But I discovered the amazing variety of black teas. Because before, I used to have non-black tea. And I always thought it was gross. I still do. I can't drink sweet tea. I can't drink, Southern Sun tea. I can't drink, just any kind of regular. It has to be a black tea. That's the only tea I'll drink. But even then, I'm very specific. I found out that I liked English breakfast tea, and then after that, I found out I liked Earl Grey, and then I found out I liked Lady Grey, and then I found out I liked, Yorkshire Gold. So those are like the 4 teas that I like now. But yeah, I only have coffee. I think whenever my dad has a day off, we'll have like breakfast or something like that, and then he'll make coffee, so I'll have coffee then. But then for the rest of the day, I feel unwell because of that coffee. Like the rest of the day, because I know it's tomorrow, Sunday. Yeah, so my dad has a day off tomorrow where he's probably gonna make coffee, and I'll drink some. And then for the rest of the day, I'm gonna feel very unwell. It's gonna make me feel like I got ran over by a train. I can't describe it any better than that. I don't like the way it makes me feel anymore. But when I was younger, before my 20s, I could drink a ton of coffee and I just felt great. I just felt wonderful. But yeah, I've had to stop drinking coffee because of the way it makes me feel. Jeffrey says, would you ever do a Disney history video again? I've gone back and forth contemplating it. Like most recently, I had asked Chris to go to Disneyland to film the Mark Twain riverboat. So that way I could make a video about the Mark Twain riverboat. The problem is there's a few problems. Is I don't want the current crowd that follows Disney content to be on this channel. Ever since I started doing Queen Mary content, I've built up a really amazing crowd of people that really appreciate history and the finer things in history and in life. And they're very wonderful people who I feel like I can talk to. I do these live streams because I feel like I can talk to all of you guys. I feel like, I could just have a casual conversation with you. But there were times back when I used to do Disney-only content where I was talking to a bunch of kids, and it was very difficult, because a lot of them were just so young, and I have nothing in common with kids except for Disney content. And even then it was like, I would talk to them, and they had the same questions all the time, and it had nothing to do with Disney history. I just couldn't hold a conversation, you know. I had no connection to them. And, you know, and so, I don't know, I crave being able to have a good conversation. But the other thing, too, is that because a lot of the Disney fandom is younger people, they have the traits that younger people have today. They're very quick to judge, very quick to react to things. If I give an opinion, it becomes controversial. Stuff like that. If I tell you guys right now, I'm like, oh, you know what? Normandy was a beautiful ship. I will acknowledge that, but I wouldn't want to stay aboard the Normandy. Some of you would be like, oh, well, I don't agree, but, you know. And then some people would be like, oh, I can kind of see that. But either way, there's tolerance. People can tolerate that opinion. With the Disney content, if I give an opinion, you get ambushed. And I don't like that atmosphere. I don't think it's very productive. I don't think it's very healthy. So there are times where I want to make Disney content just at random, but then I worry about the kinds of people it will attract. You know, and then on the flip side of it, on another issue, I guess I would say, is that I wouldn't be able to deliver to them what they want. You know, I think the last Disney video I made was about the general creation of Disneyland. And I did that because I really wanted to do it. I just felt like doing it, and I did it. And the problem was that I had like 1,000 or 2,000 people subscribe from that video. And then they realized that I don't make Disney content on a regular basis or at all. And then they realized that they were on the channel for no reason. So then they would unsubscribe. So it's one of those things where I don't want to tease people because I don't want them to subscribe only to realize that they probably won't see another Disney video for a year. You know, so I don't know. I don't know. I told Chris, because he filmed the footage I needed for the Mark Twain Riverboat video, and he was about to send it to me, and I was just kind of like, you know what? Never mind. I'm like, I don't think I want to do it enough. You know? I don't think I want to do it enough. So. And I think the last reason is the same one I've kind of been repeating for the last couple of years. There's a lot of Disney content creators right now. When I first started, there was only a handful. That was almost 8 years ago. There was only a handful of Disney content creators. And so if I made a video, people were starving for that content, and they would come to my channel and I would get a subscriber boost and stuff like that. I'd get good views. But as time went on, more and more and more and more people became content creators. Now almost every person who frequents Disneyland is a Disneyland content creator in one way or another. And no one is starving for that stuff anymore. And so if I produce something as boring as a history video, they don't come to watch it. So it's just one of those things where I'm like, if I make a video about the Mark Twain, I doubt anybody's going to watch it except for my most core viewers, so I don't know. I've been very on the fence about that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. Ozzy says, does Alex like coffee with Kilauea? I don't know what that is, but if you could tell me, I'll let you know. Chestnut Pie says brisk tea is bad but good. It's not even tea. Well, I guess they do have a tea version of brisk tea. I don't like it, but yeah. I used to drink this was when I was really young, you guys. I was a teenager. But I used to drink, there was a brisk that was like a strawberry punch or something like that. And it was so good back then. But today I could never drink it. It's literally every gulp is, a giant spoonful of sugar. So I can't do it. I think it's because I'm getting older. My body just doesn't tolerate sugar the way it used to. I can't have too much sugar. But yeah, that stuff was like acid. You would drink it. It would just like, you could feel the sugar burning holes into your flesh. Mark says, I actually like American Diner coffee from the drip machine. You know, sometimes it can be good, but I've had some diner coffee that was really bad. Just, it was like mud. Ooh, couldn't do it. But yeah, there was a place that is nearby where I live that they would get like fresh coffee, like freshly, like what do they call it, roasted coffee, but then they'd make it in the drip machine, which, if you're a coffee snob, which I know plenty of coffee snobs, you never want to make freshly roasted coffee in a coffee machine. But this place did it, and it was very good for what it was. And I was kind of like, okay, this is a lot better than just your average diner coffee. But even still, they stopped making it fresh. So they'd make like a bunch of pots of coffee, and it would sit there for hours and hours. And when they started doing that, I was like, okay, I can't drink your coffee anymore. It just wasn't good. But yeah, so I used to be part owner in a coffee shop, and we had literally, like, if you think of snobby coffee, that's what we had. But the difference was that we wanted to be a place that didn't act like snobs. You know, we would make the snobby coffee that people wanted, but we didn't act like snobs. Instead, we were very welcoming. We would let people in. We'd tell them all about what we do and kind of show them why they would like what we do. And most of the time, that's how we got our customers. We got frequent customers because we were not pretentious, you know, and that was our whole thing. And it was such a great, I have to say, I'm very proud of my old cafe, the coffee shop I had. It didn't survive the pandemic, you know. It just, we had to close and stuff. We just couldn't earn enough money to stay afloat. But for the time that we had it, the 4 years that we had it, it was great. We had an amazing customer base. It was full of people who just loved to chat and stuff like that. It was a very relaxed atmosphere. It was like, you know how like you go to a restaurant or a coffee shop today, you don't know anybody there, and you don't talk to them, you don't interact with them. That wasn't our place. When you come to our place, you would get your coffee, and everybody in the lobby would be having conversations with each other across the lobby. Sometimes we'd all be interacting all together in one giant conversation. It was just that kind of place where you could just like have a chat with somebody and drink your coffee. And a lot of people who came back were there because it was like a great place to socialize. So we had this really great thing going that we loved. We thought it was just like, it was just fantastic. You get people from all walks of life, all kinds of things. You know, it was funny because, you know, my partner, the co-owner of the business, he was what I would call like very liberal, and we would get people who were very, very conservative, and they'd have conversations, and we go back and forth, and it never sprouted into arguments. We would just have open conversations about stuff and share ideas and stuff like that. It was a really great atmosphere to just enjoy people, you know, and it was fantastic. And we had a lot of Australian customers, and I think we had one New Zealander who would come in frequently. But it was, you know, absolutely fantastic. I miss that place for so many reasons. And we had fantastic staff, just fantastic staff. Yeah. Glamorous Titanic sounds awesome. Good luck on your design for your ship. Nicholas says, if restored, where would you like to see the SS United States docked? If it were restored, I think it would do very well in Manhattan. I know that one of the propositions that was created for it was to have it docked on the north side, northeast side. I'm trying to think of the north, south, east, west of the island. But anyway, I think the northeast tip of Manhattan is where they had said that, oh, it could be docked there. But there's places near the old United States line dock on the south side of Manhattan where they have like public parks and things like that and lots of like outdoor areas. And that would also be a good place to dock it, at its old dock. So, so yeah, I think Manhattan really is a good place for it. I know a lot of people say, oh, Queen Mary could do well. I don't think Queen Mary could do well in Manhattan. And the reason why is because Queen Mary is made with a lot of materials that just are not weatherproof when you don't take good care of it. Whereas SS United States had nothing but synthetic materials. So if something were to go wrong and there was some kind of neglect, at least those materials would last a lot longer than Queen Mary's materials would last. For instance, Queen Mary has a lot of teak decking. And teak can last in weather very well, but as we've seen with the Queen Mary in Long Beach, a lot of that teak has rotted out because of various factors leading to, or stemming from, neglect. SS United States did not have teak decks. SS United States had a synthetic deck liner that was designed, to be weatherproof and stuff like that. And if they were to recreate that, the ship would be able to last through the weather when neglected much longer. So that's why, in my personal belief, Queen Mary would not do very well in New York. But SS United States has a fighting chance if everything went well. But yeah. Ozzy says Kolkata alcohol. Oh, okay. So is that kind of like how Irish cream is used in coffee too? I like Irish cream a lot in my coffee. I haven't had it in a long time. Oh, Steve's leaving. See you later, Steve. Asher Surf says, hi, do you remember me? I had a different name. Unfortunately, I don't remember you. I'm sorry. Mark says, we can no longer drink drip coffee in Australia cafe. We are all snobs, so I bought my own machine. Yeah, the thing about SS United States, and I know I've said it before, is that there really isn't anything left to save with that ship, though. That's the thing is, I know a lot of people are like, oh, but, they should save the ship for the future and stuff like that. I'm like, but what? There's nothing left in it. Like, one of the reasons why they've had such difficulty getting companies and stuff to purchase it and restore it and stuff like that, or even reuse it for a completely different purpose, even, is that the fact that there's nothing left to it. You know, if I had to tell you, all right, you know, you have to, I don't know, what's a good example? You know, I give you a container, and I say, okay, you need to come up with some really cool, really crazy ideas, but it all must fit into this container. And keep in mind, the container has specific shapes. There's a dip here where there's a handle. You know, there's a spout on this end. You know, it's concave on the bottom. You know, it's got all these different shapes to it. So your idea has to specifically fit this item, right? What you're doing is you're basically telling a company, not only do you have to spend a ton of money to build your idea, but now you must custom fit it, which costs even more money, into an object that must also be restored. So that's kind of the problem, is like, some people are like, oh, well, you know, the ship is a blank canvas. You know, and it's like, yes, to an extent it is a blank canvas. But it's at least a blank canvas is flat. You know, you can come up with something that'll fit in that one dimension. But this is a three-dimensional object with a very, very specific size and shape. And only certain things will fit in it. And it may not be the things that you want to put in there, the things that will be profitable. So, you know, it's like, you want to put a hotel in there? Okay, but Manhattan has plenty of hotels, which will probably cost cheaper to build because they can put it in a traditional box shape, you know, the size of a tower or a skyscraper. But SS United States, you know, it has a very specific shape that it needs to maintain. So it's one of those things where it's just like, it sucks what's happening, but I understand why it's happening, is because it's just very difficult to do anything with that ship, especially since all its interiors have been ripped out. You know, Queen Mary had a few things going for it. Queen Mary was the most famous ship in the year 1967, so when she retired, she was the most famous ship in the world, aside from the Titanic, which had famously sunk. But even then, Titanic was not beloved like it is today. The Titanic became beloved after James Cameron's movie, but you know, it was only loved by the biggest fans of ships back then. Queen Mary, on the other hand, was beloved all over the world. Queen Mary was in the news almost every week, you know, up until its retirement. And even then, it was in the news every week when people wanted to figure out what's going to happen to the ship. So, Queen Mary was the most famous ship in 1967. And that was one of the key factors to the Queen Mary's success in Long Beach. Another thing, too, was that, you know, the Queen Mary still had all of her original interiors inside, so they were able to preserve a lot of it. Preserve is a loose term because a lot of it has been altered, but for the most part, what you see when you get to the ship today is all the major stuff that you were able to see when you were aboard the ship as a passenger. So, you know, there's a reason to save it. There's a reason to maintain it. But I think it was 1992 or 1995 that they had to remove asbestos from the SS United States in order to maintain fire safety code as per merchant ship codes and laws, and that required tearing out anything that was left of the interiors. There's nothing of value on that ship. It's a very expensive piece of metal that is difficult to put anything in. So, yeah, that's another issue that it faces. Stefan says, "Hey Alex, what are your other historical interests? Cars, airplanes, buildings, sites, events?" No. I am very interested. So I'm very specific. Like, to give you an example, like I said earlier in the live stream, I'm not much of an ocean liner fan. I'm really more of a Queen Mary fan. It's the same thing. Like, I like a little bit of everything, but not everything of everything. So I'd like to say I love architecture, but I'm very specific also. I like Art Deco architecture. I like Googie style architecture. I like Victorian architecture. And on occasion, I like, Gothic medieval architecture on occasion. One of the places I really want to visit someday is New Orleans because they have the French Quarter. I absolutely adore the French Quarter. I think it is just amazing looking. I also am very interested in the history of the French Quarter. I also like some steam power, so I like a lot of early steam locomotives of the American West, such as the 440s of the 1870s. I love Forney locomotives, that kind of thing. So I have like a whole train layout in my other room with all my favorite types of locomotives running on it. And in fact, if you want to see that, I have a link to my other channel, Alex the Railroader, in the description below. And I keep saying that I'm going to post a video on it soon, and then I don't. But I have the video. I just haven't edited it yet. And I do want to do a live stream on that channel very soon. I was thinking about doing one today, but then I realized I should post a video first, because if I just do a live stream, it would just be so random and nobody would show up to it. But anyway, yeah. So I like trains. I generally like steam power. Sometimes I come across something that I think is interesting, like I only recently learned that London's Tower Bridge used to be operated by steam engine. It used to, the gates would, the bridge bed would lift using steam power. And so I'm kind of interested in that. When I go to London eventually, I want to film the boiler room, because they have a tour through the boiler room of that place. And I want to film that and stuff so I can make a short little video about it. So, yeah, just random stuff. My dad and I, last year, we discovered the existence of a fort nearby where I live. It's Fort Vancouver. And so I ended up going there and filming a video, and you can see on my channel I have a video about Fort Vancouver. So, I think it's called The Secret Fort or something like that, Fort Vancouver. That's an interesting video that hardly anybody watched. That's one of those things, is like, I don't want to limit my audience to just ocean liner fanatics, because I'm not really an ocean liner fanatic. But when I make other videos about things I do enjoy, nobody watches them. So it's just kind of like tough. It's like I'm at one of those points right now where I'm like, what do I make if no one's going to watch what I want to make, That's weird, isn't it? Like, I know what I want to make, but I can't get people to watch it. So I don't know. Yeah, let's not get into that. But, yeah, so... But I think that worries me. That worries me because I want to go to the UK to film a lot of historic places. Yeah, some of it's going to be ships and stuff. I'm going to film my journey aboard the Queen Mary 2. I'm going to film, we plan to see some old Navy ships and stuff like that when we go to the UK. Stuff like submarines, sailing ships, World War II ships, stuff like that. But there's also going to be a lot of historic places, historic architecture, historic buildings and stuff that I want to film and make videos about. But I'm worried that those videos are not going to be viewed. Because if people aren't watching the alternative content I make now, will they watch it in the future? So, for those of you that are thinking about starting a YouTube channel, that's something you have to consider. is that, that's good advice for you, is you might have an idea of what you want to do, but you might find that people will not watch what you want to make. Sometimes you have to make what they want to watch. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, it does worry me when I go on my UK trip that half the content I plan to make is not going to be viewed. So it's like, what do I do? I don't want to go to the UK and only see naval stuff. Like, I want to like go there and experience history. Like, one of the places that we plan to go in France is Mont Saint Michel, or Michel. I can't pronounce it right ever, but Mont Saint Michel, which is in the Normandy region. Beautiful miniature town on a giant rock in the middle of the beach. I want to make videos about that. I'm worried no one's going to watch it. So yeah, different things to consider. As for planes, the only plane I've ever been interested in was just by happenstance. I don't know why, but I just thought it was so cool. The H4 Hercules. I made a video about that as well. Didn't get very many views. But, within a 45-minute journey of where I live sits the H4 Hercules, created by Howard Hughes in 1947. It flew only once, and it was about 70 feet above the water. But it is the world's largest wooden plane, also the world's largest flying boat. And up until 2019, it had the largest wingspan of any aircraft, up until the Strato launch flew in the air in 2019. So, yeah, for literally, I think it was something along the lines of 70, 80 years. I can't do the math in my head that quickly. But for like 7 or 8 decades, it had the largest wingspan of any airplane ever made. It's incredible. But I think what attracted me about the H4 Hercules, the Spruce Goose, as some people call it, is that it's so unique. And when you go visit the airplane in the museum at the Evergreen Aviation Museum in McMinnville, Oregon, it is huge. It is just absolutely gargantuan. I mean, you go there and like they have, I have a model of it here. The ends of the wings, they have these floaters. They're designed to help keep the ship stable when it's sitting in water, so the wing doesn't dip into the water. The floaters themselves, these tiny little nubs just below the wings, are larger than the fuselage of some of the biplanes they had displayed. A biplane is a plane with 2 sets of wings. They had biplanes on display sitting underneath the wings of the H4 Hercules, and the fuselage, the main part of the aircraft of those biplanes, was still smaller than the floater beneath the wing of the H4 Hercules. And then the tail, the tip of the tail sits 8 stories above the ground. 8 stories. It is absolutely massive. This is the most massive airplane I have ever seen. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so, fascinated by it. I'm not really an airplane person. I'm not really a fan of aviation. But if I were, this is it. I mean, it has 8 Pratt & Whitney engines that propel it. And they were the largest radial reciprocating engines ever put on an aircraft. And they still are. They're still to this day the largest radial reciprocating engines ever put on an aircraft. So it is unbelievable. It's just a fascinating airplane. So yeah, I just have really random interests, just really random. Yeah, there's things that I find so fascinating. and then I can't replicate that fascination for other things. It's just really weird. I love dinosaurs. I love learning about dinosaurs and the prehistoric world. You know, when I was a kid, I was fascinated by them. I used to go to the school library. They had books and books and books about dinosaurs, and I'd take them, I'd borrow them from the school library, take them home, read through them like crazy. Oh my gosh, like, and I don't have books about dinosaurs anymore, but I still occasionally, if there's a news article that comes out about paleontology, I'll read it. You know, I love that kind of stuff. So, I also love random things. Like, I get really obsessed about things, you know. I have like a book all with Edgar Allan Poe's works. It's like a single book with all his works in it, because I really love Edgar Allan Poe. I love all kinds of art, so sometimes I have books. I'm looking at one right now across the room. Art books and stuff like that. How to draw, how to paint, how to, you know, stuff like that. Even if I don't do a lot of drawing and painting, I love it. Just random stuff. A lot of really random likes. A lot of people would be surprised by this, but I am a huge fan of, like, vampires. Yeah. Not all of them. For some reason, I'm not really that fascinated by Dracula, but I love the Anne Rice Vampire Chronicles. It's, to me, just really amazing. I get obsessed about it sometimes. I'll read, like, I'm part of, like, forums where people talk about the books and talk about the movie and the TV show and stuff like that, and I'm part of the forum, and I'll just have conversations with people and stuff. You know, I get obsessed about things sometimes. I just have a lot of interest, and they're just all over the place. So, I'm even writing a novel. I've been writing a novel since I was a teenager. And every time I end up like scrapping it and rewriting it, because as I get older I get better and better at writing, and I want the novel to be really good when I finally publish it. But I'm writing a vampire novel. A lot of people don't know that about me. And in fact, when I'm done with this live stream, after I clean up, I'm going to be working more on the novel. So yeah, I have a lot of really odd interests that are just all over the place. K4RNA says, maybe try shorter videos, Alex, see if they work out. I'm going to do that again, but I have done that in the past. In the past, I would make videos that were like 8 minutes long. Like, look at the most recent video I published is actually a re-upload, but it's called The Lost Legends, The Burning Steamboats of Lake Coeur d'Alene. Great video on my channel. I think you guys would love it, but nobody's watching it. So, you know, sorry, I get frustrated, but it's only because I know you guys would love the video, you know, like, it's good. It's really good, you know. I love watching that stuff, but yeah, I don't know. It's hard to get people to just click on it, you know. But yeah, I plan to do more short form videos, because I'm gonna see if maybe I can try to get back into it. I haven't had luck with short videos though. Every time I do a short video, not a YouTube short, but a short form video, it just doesn't get the views generally. But on occasion you get something. Like, my most successful video ever was about Queen Mary's swimming pool, and that has like 1.5 million views. It's my most popular video. But I think that's because of the thumbnail, which has been very controversial. But yeah. And then I used to do shorts. So I think my channel has 2 or 3 shorts. But I don't like making shorts. You know the YouTube shorts that you go on, they're all vertical, you know. I've made them. I don't like making those. I don't know why. You know what? I know why. It's because I'm a detail-oriented person, you know? Like, if I tell you about something, I want to get really into it and really describe things. I'm a storyteller. That's what I like to do. I love to tell stories about something. And I can't do that with a YouTube short. You just can't. Like, you know, you have 30 seconds to tell a story. I know that they allow you, like, to do up to, like, I think a minute or two or something like that, but nobody watches videos that are like YouTube shorts that are more than 30 seconds long. So really, in reality, you have to make a 30-second long video. But yeah, problem is that I can't tell a story in that amount of time, and so I don't enjoy making it, you know. Yeah, but wow. Wow, the wind is going so much. It is blasting the moss off of my balcony. Like, there's moss in the corners of the balcony, and it's blasting it off of the ground. Oh my god. Whoa. Okay. So Stefan says, Alex, if you like vampires, you must go to New Orleans. You'll be inspired. Oh, I know. Believe me, I know. I've been researching New Orleans. I have a video about the French Quarter if you guys want to see it. It's that was a successful video. What was it called? Saving the New Orleans French Quarter, I think. Yeah, I want to go to New Orleans and film a bunch of stuff. Like, I want to go all over the French Quarter and just film tons of the French Quarter, so that way I can come back and make whatever content I want out of it. You know, I want to try the different foods there. You know, I want to go out to the plantations, take some tours of the plantations, learn the history, you know, and then film the plantations and stuff like that, so I can talk about each individual one. You know, I also want to make more Halloween-themed history content. Like, one of my more successful New Orleans Halloween-themed content I put out was the Ursuline Convent in the French Quarter. If you haven't seen it, that's another great story. It's a convent. It's literally the oldest building in New Orleans, and it was a convent, but there's, like, you know, a myth that surrounds it that vampires came to New Orleans and the nuns locked them in the attic of the convent, and yeah, so I don't want to give it all away, but yeah, it's an interesting story. It's just, you know, it's cool. It's a cool story, and so I like doing, like, Halloween themed stories. So yeah, and I know when I go there, I want to film more stuff for stuff like that. I want to cover more of the history of New Orleans. I just love, like, New Orleans, you know. So yeah, I would love to go there. I also want to film, you know, a ride aboard the Natchez, which is the only steam-powered paddle wheeler boat in New Orleans. So they have others that look like paddle wheelers, but they're like diesel engine ships. But the Natchez is actually steam powered. I want to film a voyage aboard the Natchez up the Mississippi, so I can make a video about that, and, you know, film travel vlogs, stuff like that. Yeah, lots of stuff. There's a lot of stuff I want to do. Top impressive line. No, they haven't, thankfully. I'm hoping that it's all over, you know. I'm hoping that all that's done with when we can all get back to, you know, what's important in our lives, you know. So King of Battleships says, would you ever make a video about the second class pool? No, I don't think so, because there isn't anything to show. Like, there's maybe four images I can make and put into a video. And the problem with making videos without images is it's not a video, it's a podcast. So, yeah, unfortunately, I don't see myself doing that because there just isn't anything to show. So, Kevin's leaving. See you later, Kevin. Pennsylvania Dutchman says, Alex, go to USS Kidd if you get to New Orleans. Oh, is there? I didn't know that there was a naval ship there. All right, I'll do that. Mark says, Velociraptor is my favorite dinosaur. Sorry if it's spelled wrong. No problem. Yeah, Velociraptor is a really interesting dinosaur. Russell Cooper says, can a 4-engine aircraft fly with only one engine working? I am not an aircraft expert. I couldn't tell you, but I'm pretty sure that if my friend Chris were here with me, he would be like, yes, they can, because he's kind of an aircraft enthusiast. He wouldn't be like a fan. Like he'd be telling me right now, Alex, I'm not a fan, but he does know a lot about aircrafts. So he'd probably be sitting here going, yes, they can, yes, they can. But it would, probably not be for a very far distance. Probably just enough to get it to land. Yeah. Land safely, I should say. Oh, Stefan says, Nachos, if you are a steam nerd, I got funny looks by the crew when I identified the make and model of the boilers. That's funny. I am a steam nerd, but I don't think I could identify the make and model of a boiler unless I saw the boiler plate. If I saw the boiler plate and I read it out loud, that would be it. But I am a steam nerd. Like, I know how steam power works. Like, I have a simulator on my computer that perfectly replicates the running of the Disneyland Railroad steam locomotives, down to even just firing it up and waiting 3 hours for the water to boil. It's very accurate. It's almost 100% accurate. And I know how to do it. I know how to run it. So I probably could get behind the controls of the Disneyland Railroad and actually run the engine, both firing it and operating it. But yeah, I'm still pretty limited, though. I wouldn't be able to name every single part of a boiler or a steam system, but yeah. Asher says, I'm so happy to be back, by the way. If you didn't hear, I'm Fun Edits. Oh, okay. Oh, Pennsylvania Dutchman says the USS Kidd is in Baton Rouge. Oh, okay. I don't know that we'll be able to go as far as Baton Rouge. I think we would be limited to New Orleans because we might rent a car if we go to New Orleans. But I plan to spend like 80% of my time in the French Quarter, and maybe like 10% of my time in other districts like the Garden District and stuff like that, like the various cemeteries, stuff like that. And then another 10% of my time looking at like the plantations and maybe part of the bayou. My friend really wants to do a bayou tour, and I'm kind of like, I don't know, but then again, I might do it, so oh, top impressive line. Wow. Yeah, that wind sounds really powerful. Alright, it is 3, so we've been on here for 2 hours. I'm going to get going because I got to clean up. I got some dishes to do and stuff like that, but and then I want to work on my book, like I was talking about earlier. But yeah, I think there should be a video coming out on Friday. It's going to be about Queen Mary's size. So it's a size comparison video. And I think you guys will find it interesting. So, it's basically just like comparing the Queen Mary to a bunch of different things, so you can get an overall idea of the size of the ship. Because I've heard way too many people say, "Oh, I visited the Queen Mary, and she's not a very big ship." And I'm like, I think you're underestimating how big the Queen Mary really is. So, yeah. I thought of that idea, and I'm like, okay, that'll make a fun video. So that's gonna be the next one to come out, and then I'll try to work on some other stuff. But yeah, anyway, folks, thank you all so much for watching. I really enjoyed talking to you all again, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.